but there needs to be some type of like trust mechanism that whitelists good agents versus like the malicious agents, right? So there has to be like some industry standard in there that all the merchants sort of adhere to, and stuff like that. So I hope because today we have to do all kinds of gymnastics to avoid bot blocking to kind of make this happen, because we because everybody it's the dolphin in the tuna net, right? Everybody gets caught in the same net.
Welcome to the Retailgentic podcast, where we explore the intersection of retail, e-commerce, and AI agents, which we call Retailgentic. Our mission is simple. We are shining a bright light on the new Agentic AI shopping megatrend, which will disrupt the trillion-dollar digital retail market. The stakes are high. Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, Perplexity, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Anthropic are all fighting to be the consumer AI shopping agent winner. There are going to be some tough decisions for online brands and retailers to make. What happens to checkouts? How should payments work? Should you continue to invest in retail media networks? What does the world look like when over half of your traffic is not from humans, but from AI agents? These existential questions are the tip of the iceberg. On this podcast, we're talking to industry experts, analysts, and influencers to get answers to these questions, identify trends, and best practices. This is Retailgentic, your podcast partner in navigating our AI shopping agent future. And now here's your host, Scot Wingo.
Welcome to the Retailgentic podcast. On today's episode, I'm excited to welcome Manil Uppal to the show. Manil is founder and CEO of CartAI. Thus far on the show, we've had startups doing a variety of things in agentic commerce. So we've had an agent company like Generous that's doing agentic gifting, and then also a bunch of companies that are doing agentic commerce infrastructure. These are companies that are building the tooling that agent builders are going to need to build agents. So companies like Generous would use these other types of companies. Examples that we've had on the show so far are Nakuda and Simple Checkout, both on the payment side. CartAI is is one of these tool providers or infrastructure providers, I'll say. And what they've built is a system that gives agent builders the ability to agentically complete any retailer's checkout. So it goes and the user says, I have found a piece of apparel using your agent, and then the agent builder can say, okay, go buy that from site A, B, or C, and finish the transaction for my user. This is both extremely cool and very hard to do. How are they going to do it? Well, stay tuned for my conversation with CartAI, and we're going to learn how. Manil Uppal, founder and CEO of CartAI. Welcome to the Retailgentic podcast.
Hello, Scott. Happy to be here. Been a fan for a long time. Watched every episode, and finally excited to be on here with you.
Awesome. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, and you were like, it's too early. And finally, I twisted your arm and got you on the pod. So I'm excited to reveal to our audience what you're working on. I think they're going to be really intrigued by what you guys are doing.
Yep. We were in stealth mode earlier, so that's why I was kind of staying a little bit hidden. But I'll tell you this: we started working on this early in the year, and it really felt a very isolated space, and you were the only voice out there. So so thank you for doing what you're doing for the agentic commerce world.
Yeah, for a while we thought we were crazy, but then everyone came along for the ride. So it was a little touch and go there for a while. So tell us about your background. You have a really interesting background that I think will help set up why you're working on this problem.
Yeah, for sure. I think my entrepreneurial journey started about 12, 13 years ago. This CartAI is my third venture. My very first one, about 13 years ago, was a company called Lash Delivery. And this is like the very early days of same day delivery, where we were a B2C e-commerce app that delivered alcohol to your door in 30 minutes.
Oh, like a Drizzly.
Yeah, it was around the same time Drizzly was starting in Boston, where we were starting in Texas. At that time, we didn't know about Drizzly,
Yeah.
ships in the night type of deal. But and then we added food to the equation as well, and we were the only app that could do like food and alcohol in one order, and it was a pretty complex business. I had fun building that. It was a hard business because we also had our own logistics and our own drivers and things like that. So multi-dimensional that way. I think that company got acquired pretty quick, within 3 years by HEB, which is a huge grocery player here in the Texas area. And then we took all the lessons learned from that and started our next company called Delivery Solutions. Some of the lessons were, hey, you know what? We're good at B2B, we're good at tech. Not the best B2C marketeers. That was a bear, customer acquisition from a B2C standpoint. Not the best logistics operators either. It was a noisy part of the business and things like that. So Delivery Solutions was a pure SaaS platform that invented the consolidation of same day last mile, right? So we made a bet, 7 years ago that same day would be a big part of retailers' omni-channel, e-commerce, right? At that time, it was only maybe grocers and alcohol doing it, and we said, this is going to be ubiquitous. So to all the retailers trying to implement that, we give them a standardized API to access same day delivery. And on the other side, we were connected to everybody, right? The Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash, name it. And, so we created that sort of, PayPal of like, same day, if you will, right?
Hmm. Would it do like a little RFP that says, "Hey, I need a delivery," and people would bid on it, or was it just kind of a access to multiples?
It was more like rules that the retailers set in terms of, how, and, maybe in certain regions, they want the delivery providers to do a bid amongst themselves. Maybe in certain regions they had a contract with a specific one, and things like that. So we had the orchestration engine and the rules and all of that stuff to kind of make it happen, for those use cases. So that company got acquired by UPS, 3 years ago, and I had a bit of an earn out there, and
Did it make you move to Atlanta? UPS loves Atlanta.
yep, they're out of Atlanta. And then I think I got out of that. We finished that in September, and then here I am on this CartAI journey.
Tell us about the grocery. Were you at HEB long enough to learn about the grocery biz? That's kind of a my other podcast partner Jason has been saying I should learn more about grocery, and I've been resistant. But I've more recently been drug into it, and it is an interesting business. It's got a lot of complexity to it.
Yeah, we not too long. I mean, I think it was about a 6 month earnout for us. I mean, when you throw HEB resources and money to a problem, things move fast, right? So we had certain things we had to hit for scale, and we were able to hit it like uh, quite easily, and and they were very good at their tech and executing and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about HEB. So I didn't, I'm in North Carolina. I didn't really know about them. In Texas, they're big, but everyone in grocery kind of looks at them and admires them. Tell us more about what is unique about this HEB thing.
Yeah, at least when we were working with them, I think their vision was just beyond, and their pace of execution. And there was this one executive there, who, Paul Teffonard, who's now in Google, and he was the one who made the decision to kind of acquire us as well. And he approached tech as a whole separate business within HEB. He had his own building where he had his separate from the mothership where all the tech folks sat, and the speed at which they moved and the speed at which they evaluated stuff and made decisions, back then was, we were like just amazed, right? And we worked with other grocers, since then, never have seen that level of speed and just like uh, the surgical execution what I saw at HEB, in my time there. So kudos to that team and Paul.
Yeah, yeah. So you've done two startups. You could probably retire if you wanted to, and then you're crazy. You keep going back to it. Like what made you decide to jump into the AI deep into the pool?
I I tried the whole take a trip and find the soul in retirement stuff. That didn't kind of work out for me. I was like, within 2 weeks, I was like, nope, I gotta have a purpose in life and stuff like that. And this problem of agentic commerce, this was gnawing at me for a while. It all started. I used to know a company a couple of years ago a small API that would, if you're a DTC brand, it would tell you, you could go to the brand website and it would tell you where the product is within the retailer, right? And they had a API for that. And the founders, I knew them, and I'm like, man, this doesn't go far enough. Like, why just redirect me to the retailer? Just offer the checkout. And they're like, no, that's hard. We, can't do it. How, the product's there. They have their systems. We can't. It was hard.
Yeah. Yeah, we call that where to buy. There's like all these big where to buy solutions. Yeah, we had one at ChannelVisor.
Yeah, the way to buy, but like I wanted, let me also buy because I'm there at the site and I have intent, and and maybe that retailer is just a mile down from me. Why can't I just and that morphed into a bigger question: why can't I buy stuff if I see it, right? You can only do that if you're in a marketplace. Like if I'm in Amazon experience, yep, I can search and buy, right? But everywhere else, there's always this giant redirect, right? From where you discover products to where you buy products, right? And I'm like, we got to solve that. Like,
yeah. And the redirects are drag because even if it's a customer, even if it's like, I have logins at all the big guys, Target, Best Buy, and all those things, but I can never remember them. So I just end up going to the guest checkout every time. It's just like such a pain in the butt.
and also it's a big drag on conversions and stuff like that. So that's kind of like, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna solve this. Let's go figure. This is like early last year, right? I'm like, but then I've also worked with in delivery solutions like all the top retailers, in the country, and I know what the retailers want, right? They don't want another stack to deal with, another channel to deal with, where they gotta like maintain that, and so on and so forth. So merchants and retailers want merchant native orders, right? And that's two things, right? You can be merchant native from a payment standpoint. You gotta have their payment systems clear the payment, and the other thing is the order should somehow magically and surgically be inserted into their order management system, because so much is tied to that, right? Your customer service, your post purchase, your returns, all of that's tied to an order, following a certain flow if it's inserted in there. So early last year, I was like, well, if I got to do this, I got to integrate with every payment gateway in the world because everybody's using different stuff. Then I got to go integrate with every order management system because every retailer is on different OMSs, right? Like Sterling to like Shopify to Manhattan, to Salesforce, Oracle, etc. And I'm like, well, I'm probably going to kill myself, just doing integration. Then so I'm like, I'll never be successful. I shelved the idea back then. And it was not until early this year, as LLM technologies rose to where like LLMs could start doing things like autonomously, I saw the light. I'm like, wow, you know what? An agent can do this. And if I went to the browser and placed an order from the top, it would be merchant native. It will, follow their payment stack, will be inserted into their order management. It doesn't matter what they use, though that rail's already built. So I'm like,
Looks
wow.
like a human.
Yep. So, well, bought it back from the ice, and that's kind of where the journey started.
Cool. When did you get to the point where you knew like you were going to incorporate, like you were like, did you do a proof of concept with some of the agentic stuff, or you just like knew once you to run it up?
It was, even after I put too much trust in AI. I'm like, wow, AI is magical because, there's so much press on this and stuff like that. I'm like, AI will do everything, right? Like so we started like, I put a small tech team together, and we started working on it. And oh, it wasn't that magical. Like, it just, and that was it was a good and a bad thing, right? Like, the bad thing is like, okay, shit, we got to like work on this to kind of make this work and make this reliable. The good thing is, good, we're not going to get like, we're just not a wrapper over some LLM. We really have to like kind of build some IP to kind of make this work, and things like that. So we said, okay, we got to go figure this out, and start, building towards it, right? And that's kind of like how we got started on that path.
Awesome. So this year you founded CartAI, and then give us the pitch. So help folks understand what it is you do.
So yeah, so let's talk about agentic commerce just in general, right? The general layers, and I'll just share that one visual, Scott. I wrote this Substack, and in very simple terms, there are three layers to agentic commerce, right? Up top sits the catalog, right? You got to have a feed of some kind, and you know what you're selling, right, for agentic commerce to happen. And even before this, the way I'm defining and generally define agentic commerce technically is the initiating surface of where the transaction starts, and the target merchant and retailer are two different surfaces, right? And agentic is what like bridges the gap. between that, right? So obviously the initiating surface has to have some type of catalog, feed in them and things
Some
like
would say
that.
the catalog's the most important part. You and I differ a little bit, but like
It is, right?
I'm a little bit catalog, you're a little bit checkout. So that's
Yeah,
we
yep.
can yeah.
So, and even in catalog, there are different ways, right? The people who pull catalogs, you can scrape, you can do stuff, and there are merchants. The whole GEO. This is also where you play, right? Help merchants get their catalog to a point, give it context so that like AI engines can consume it properly and things like that. So that's like what I'm calling like the push part of the catalog, where it's initiative from the merchants, right, to make the catalog like better so that AI agents can consume them better, right? And then once the catalog's there, and you got to have some type of payment layer to transact. That's a whole different science, within itself. And a lot of companies trying to figure that out. A lot of big players trying to figure out how payments work in the agentic world. And then when you scroll down, you have or I got to scroll down, I suppose. Yeah, there you go. You have checkout, right? The execution layer. Somebody has to go place that order, right, and tie it all together, right? The transaction has to happen, right? So that's what is the execution layer, and that's where CartAI is. That's where we've decided to play, at least for now, is tackle that. And even that layer, has a couple different methods, right? One is browser agentic, right, which is like going to the websites, where the agent goes to the website as a human, and navigates it and places the order. And the other one's like more of an integrated checkout, where there's some type of connection already with the platform or with the merchant and stuff like that. And you're able to place the order that way. A combination of both of that is the execution layer, and that's what CartAI plays, right, to make that piece easy for our customers.
Got it. So let me restate it back to make sure that I and the listeners / viewers understand. So your customer is building an agent of some kind, and they take care of all the catalog and all that jazz, and then when their customer is a consumer, and when they're ready to buy something, they then turn it over to you to collect the payment information from that consumer and then navigate the checkout on their behalf.
Yeah. So basically, we are the ones who are helping our customer add a buy now or a buy for me button, to their checkout experience. I think when you get into the flows and stuff like that, they would have to kind of work with a payment provider to tokenize the cards and stuff like that.
So you don't want to do that. Okay. So they would use Stripe, show you the Stripe thing, and it would say, I'm link, boom. You would get the token and
Yeah, so somebody will vault it and things like that. And when we are ready to buy, we will talk to that provider and get the credentials, because we'll have to go and place the order and things like that. So yes, we do have an angle where we have to talk to the payment layer as well to get the credentials, right?
yeah. Yeah. And to make it more real, let's say I built a shoe collector, a sneakerhead, agentic, very verticalized consumer app, and it goes through and detects, oh my gosh, there's this exciting new drop at Adidas, and once the consumer starts paying, I gather their payment credentials, get a token, and then pass it to you, and you would go downstream to Adidas and complete the checkout and consummate the transaction.
Yep. So you would capture the intent of the customer to buy, right? And you would send that intent over to me, and I would be the one sort of buying, on your customer's behalf, right? Whether it is a web agentic where I go through the browser and go to adidas.com and finish the transaction, or maybe I'm already connected to Adidas using, I don't know, maybe the new ACP protocol. We'll probably talk about that, or whatever comes out in the
Or
future, right?
AP2. There's a million of these things now. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever that, so our job is to abstract those complexities from your shoe app, right? So you don't have to deal with that, and we'll make that happen for you.
This kind of drives me crazy when I do. Everyone always accuses me of just rebuilding Channel Advisor, just in a different format. So in a way, you are, you're back when you had all these dropship companies, last mile companies. You made a lot of value by putting a clever front end in front of it. So in a way, that's what you're doing. There's all these checkouts that are hard to figure out. If you go figure it out and can build an agent to go complete it, there's a lot of different use cases that will benefit and enable in our agentic commerce world.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep,
So it's a
exactly.
one-to-many kind of connector kind of model. I'm a fan of those, by the way.
Yeah, from a checkout standpoint, right? Because it's always this case, right? Like when a revolution starts, everything's kind of very fragmented at the beginning, right? And it takes time for like things to settle down. And even when things settle down, there'll be like three or four, major protocols that are going to win, and then the rest are not going to participate. So we are that sum total of like, whatever that landscape looks like, right? In terms of who which protocols emerge today. If you ask me, hey, I want to do agentic universally, the only option today is web agentic, right? Because those rails are already kind of built, right? In the future, obviously, as more protocols rise, that's going to change, and web will probably become like more, like the last mile, like that last 10%, if you will, right? Maybe, and the rest maybe front ended by protocols, who knows, right? But that journey is going to be hard to solve, and your shoe app is not going to gyrate to like every change in the market. So you're better off giving it to an execution layer with a standardized API. That connection is never going to change. Whereas we then take care of, as the market evolves, right?
Yeah, and the higher surface area, the higher inventory I have exposure to in my app, the better experience it is. My app would stink if I just supported,
Yeah,
one
absolutely, right.
protocol or
Yeah.
something like
And,
that.
and you cannot decide what you show to your consumer just based on like, hey, do they have a particular protocol or not, right? You want to be as broad as possible.
Yeah, this is one of my big concerns with both the Google and Amazon buy for me. It's kind of handy they're named the same thing. I don't think that's going to last long. So I can't believe I can't believe two giant companies with all those lawyers have the same name in there. But anyway, uh, uh, so the Amazon implementation requires Amazon Pay, and the Google, all this awesome Google agentic stuff ends at Google Pay, and those are two that actually have almost no adoption. So they've taken this really what could be a huge surface area thing, and they've put it through this tiny narrow little straw, and it's going to be, yeah, they may expand it from there, and maybe it's just a beta or something, but it's always disappointing to me because I have to spend all my time for my Substack finding a store like that will take Google Pay. It's actually not easy.
If I'm Amazon, I can see, well, I don't want anybody on top of me. So you know what, wall garden, everybody stay out. I'm going to do my own thing. But Google, I mean, imagine the potential, right? They have your payment in this wallet. They have all your passwords, Scott, right? To every website. Imagine like
Just right up in
agent,
Chrome. They're just
yeah,
right up there in Chrome. Yeah.
yeah. Imagine like you can do agentic commerce, but now with loyalty embedded in it. Like, whoa, now what's your level 5 in your visual, your famous visual of levels of agentic commerce? They're the ones actually the best and able to kind of knock that out of the park, right? So
The thing that's even more frustrating is the only company that's actually even better than them is Apple, and they're just like not even off the starting block.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So there you go. So I think you'll have a role in this for quite a while. It's gonna take a while for everyone to get going. So it seems like and you've kind of hinted at this, the hard part of this is there's some really funky checkouts out there. And, groceries always one, auto parts is another one, and B2B gets to be really, really wonky. Is there, uh, you know, are you going to have some limits to this? Like when you tell your customers, is there certain categories you haven't done yet that are on the roadmap, or how do you think about the plan there?
Yeah, in terms of like how we're developing the tech, like theoretically, there shouldn't be any limit, right? As long as I check out the checkout. But I think our initial focus has been sort of e-commerce based stuff, right? That's what we're kind of training, our sort of model on, and that's kind of where most of our sort of IP is getting built on. So if I then we decided to go tackle some B2B vertical, or very quickly maybe like grocery and stuff like that, then I'd probably be like 80-90% already there, and then I gotta figure out like, what are the 10% nuance of a of a grocery checkout, and things like that. I would say like most of it should kind of map over, but then maybe there's a 10% delta on the execution side, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of our audience at Retailgentic is merchants, so they're brands and retailers that sell direct in some format or even indirect. And let's say I could kind of see two ways they would even be interested in at least making it easier to work with you. So number one is maybe they just like to sell more stuff, and they could say to you, "Hey, Manil, how do I make my checkout more friendly for you? Is there anything I can do?" And then another one would be maybe they look at Amazon Buy for Me kind of a thing, and they want to implement their own. Maybe I'm I'm just going to randomly pick one out. A large beauty retailer or something, and there's certain things I can't have on my site for some reason, and maybe I want to have a widget on my site that can go buy off of the direct brands, the beauty brands site. um, Seems like those would be two use cases that would be interesting. What do you say to the retailer that wants to make in those two scenarios, like
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So on the first one, in how to make the checkout like more agent friendly, if you will. Today, if an agent lands on a retailer website or a merchant website, when CartAI goes lands there, we look no different than some hacker malicious bot, right? Like, and we get like put into the same bucket as everybody else, and Cloudflare kicks in and other people kick in and there's bot blocking. And so today there's no like good way of like whitelisting, an agent whose sole purpose is to bring you more revenue.
we're good guys, we're waving the flag, yeah, we're happy to identify and tell you who we are, and answer any questions. Yeah.
So there in general, right, with and retailers need to participate in this, but there needs to be some type of like trust mechanism that whitelists good agents, versus like the malicious agents, right? So there has to be like some industry standard in there, that all the merchants sort of adhere to, and stuff like that. So I hope, because today we have to do all kinds of gymnastics to avoid bot blocking to kind of make this happen, because we because everybody, it's the dolphin in the tuna net, right? Everybody gets caught in the same net. And to the second point, that's there's some fascinating use cases now, right? Think of affiliate models, right? Where if I'm an affiliate today and I'm showcasing a particular product for a particular retailer, it's all about like affiliate links with certain codes at checkout and then the redirect and stuff like that. Can you imagine each affiliate now having their own sort of checkout, but the checkout's happening with the merchant natively, but it's happening somewhere else? I mean, unlocks like so many doors, right?
Yeah, keep the customer up at the affiliate site and deliver a paid for order, which is, you end up with this whole affiliates constantly argue over like who gets attribution. It's like this endless battle of why did last click win, blah blah. Yeah, it solves it. Yeah, whoever got the order.
Also, another something closer to your channel advisor background, right? Like endless aisles and things like that. And in the past you had to have all of those like nailed up connections with like the brand, the suppliers and stuff like that. Well, in the future maybe not so much, right? Maybe that can be agentic execution on the back end, right? To display those that inventory, and then when the order comes, placing the order to the right supplier, all of that stuff, that there could be a world that gets unlocked there as well.
And feel free not to answer any of these questions, but have you raised venture capital yet, or where are you in that part of the life cycle?
Not yet. I mean, I'm cutting the checks right now, like, so fully bootstrapped. But yes, about to start the process of sort of getting some cash into the war chest, right?
I found the longer you write checks yourself, the more open you tend to be to VC. So
Yeah. So yeah, I'm about to start the process on getting something going on that front.
cool. And you obviously did a good, little stint there in the grocery world. Any focus on that in particular, or?
It's definitely something that we would consider in the future, because it like unlocks a lot of um, unlocks a lot of doors, right? In grocery, if you think of all those recipe apps, right? There were some, even before the rise of AI, there were some like good companies like doing some really cool stuff on recipes, but the translation of a recipe, and maybe that's, I don't know, 20 SKUs into a cart at a merchant where you can check,
Always fails.
very hard to do, right? Unless you had some hard integration, or eventually the grocers themselves got into the recipe business, or either acquired, or had their own sort of like embedded utility, right? Now this can open that up, right? Now recipe utilities, or or AI based, can live somewhere else and can easily translate into a cart at any grocer, right, if you will, right? I think that's kind of huge. I think for CPGs, having a checkout on their website where your local retailer who carries that fulfills, is now real. You can make that happen like very easily now with agentic checkout, right? So I know a lot of CPGs, also have a D2C side, and I don't know how much those have taken off in general in the industry. Because it's kind of how you have a bulk of your business focused on distribution and maintaining your distribution network, and then you also have a D2C side, and you got to figure out warehousing, logistics, all of that for it. Well, now your own retailers can they can deliver your orders, and you can actually add more. That's the whole concept of earlier. Maybe you were an affiliate and you were sending traffic to your retail partners. Now you can be a channel, you can actually send orders. Isn't that huge for CPG? I mean,
Yeah, we used to call it where to buy, and now it could be a go ahead and buy.
yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a
Or buy
clever
for
name.
me, seems
Yeah,
to be a
yeah, go ahead and
popular
buy it
phrase.
for me. Yeah, and then the all these what we learned at ChannelAdvisor is the big social companies and search companies wanted to do this kind of thing, and then they realized, transactional e-commerce gets a little bit hard in there because there's a fair number of error conditions. It seems like when you're talking about grocery recipes, one of the error conditions is you would have this recipe site and it would have encoded in it the products, and they would try to do this cart injection. Well, it was so static, there was no way to look and see if the things I'm about to add to the cart are even available, and that was like always and invariably Murphy's Law kicks in retail, and that like six of the four, 4 of the 6 ingredients are out of stock, and you're like, well, this is kind of a mess. Now I'm gonna have to spend all this time figuring out a substitute. How do you guys handle that? Like out of stocks, there's a lot of error conditions, and then even post transaction stuff. Is there like a series of APIs and communication protocols that you and the customer have to kind of walk through this whole mechanism?
Yeah. So at the catalog layer, that's not instant, right? There's some periodic refresh rate, to that, right? Your catalog may be a day old, could be 30 minutes old, but it's not real time, right? So the real time angle gets in when we get on there, right? When we are trying to go and do the execution, whether it's browser agentic or based on some API connection, that's when we actually find out what's available or not. And we also do things like multi SKU single merchant, where you're buying more than one thing. We also do stuff like multi SKU multi merchant, right? Your cart may not be limited to one merchant. Like you could buy 2 things from one, and another thing from a different merchant. So we have different flags in our API that says like, hey, what happens if I can't find one thing, right? Do I just fail the whole thing, or should I just go ahead if I can find the other two, and stuff like that? Or we can come back and say things like, hey, that shirt is, you wanted black, not available in that size, but I do see that it's available in red and blue, and we can give this information back, right? Now our customer has to build that experience, with their end consumers, on how do they want to show that, right? Obviously this is not instant checkout anymore, right? Sort of, right? There's some interaction and back and forth, and so that's a little bit of a challenge on how they figure out that piece of checkout. But yeah, but we do pass that information back.
Yeah. Are you enjoying variations?
Oh, variants are you know uh,
People that are new to e-commerce are like, tell me more about these things. And they're like, it sounds easy. And then they're like, wait a minute. This would always blow the mind of all the search and social people. They were like, can we just do it without that? And I was like, no.
so initially when we used to test on retail websites, I always go to the accessory section because that's like no variations mostly, right? But as I get into like, I see stuff like 3D. Hey, what style of pants, and then what color, and then like what, what size, and it gets like progressively kind of harder, right?
The
That's
matrix gets, the square of number of variations, the complexity, it goes up to the square of that. How about post transaction? So the checkout does an order complete. It frequently will generate an order number and maybe some other message. It's not going to have a tracking number at that point because there's a delay. But do you then articulate that back up, and it's up to your customer on how they want to surface that?
Yeah, yeah. So when we place an order and we're successful, right, on that, the immediate post checkout screen, right, we capture that information on the order numbers and stuff like that, and relay that back up, right? Even that's like, there's so many variations in that. I don't know if you knew, but the number that Shopify gives you at checkout is very different from the number you get on your email, right? So when you check out on Shopify, you get some hex number, right? And then, but when you get the email, it's a totally different, like a proper like alpha, a numeric number, and so there are different variations within that. But yeah, we get that stuff out. In terms of like all the other post purchase stuff, we feel like look, the theory is omni-channel is pretty mature now, right? Everybody's got decent customer service, decent returns, right? Decent post-purchase and tracking and all of that. So as soon as we place the order on your behalf, that chain of emails from the retailer starts coming automatically, right? Oh, Scott, here's your order. And then it's like you place any other order, right? So we let that process be in terms of, how it's like progressing and things like that. I know Amazon quoted like an email, they intercept that, and
They do man in the middle kind of
yeah,
intercepts that stuff. Yeah.
we haven't gone down that route. I felt like it's best to, hey, you place the order, you tell them the order is placed, and then retail systems are so mature now that they do a decent job at like communicating back to the customer, right, as to how their order is progressing.
Yeah. How about some of the dynamic nature of checkouts? So sometimes you'll put an address in and then it'll figure out your tax and shipping, and then it'll relay back shipping options and cost and all that. Do you send that back upstream and then they have to have a picker and then you go back and yep.
We have two flavors, right? And it all goes down to what experience your shoe app wants to give to the customer, right? And it also depends on the style of checkout, right? Whether it is an instant like API based checkout, or it's a browser based checkout, right? I call it like buy now and buy for me. Okay, two different concepts. Buy now is basically saying, look, downstream I'm hooked up to an instant API where I can do things like instantly, right? Like any e-commerce checkout, right? So in a buy now scenario where I'm connected via API, I can surface tax shipping like instantly, pretty much, right? Like any e-commerce checkout, right? If you will. Buy for me is a concept where that nail down connection isn't there, and I'm doing like browser agentic and stuff like that. That takes a bit of time, right, for me to go and browse and stuff like that. So there we have two options where we say one shot or a confirmation method. The one shot method is basically saying, hey, you tell us that go check out and give me the cheapest shipping option possible, right? And give me a range on the tax or whatever, right? Like, an approx, but you're not going back to the user for a second confirmation, right? You're just saying, just go and give me the cheapest and, make it happen. And the confirmation method is go there, give me all the different shipping flavors that are available and their cost, give me the exact tax from the retailer's website, and I will go back to my customer for a double confirmation, or, what I mean? So that could be the other sort of, so depending on what experience you want to code, we kind of support sort of both flavors, right? Um, you know, Up at the beginning, we can give you a decent idea of shipping, and there are so many APIs you can get, like tax information. You can be pretty accurate if you want to do one shot. But yeah, we support sort of like both the flavors.
Cool. Well, I can't poke holes in it, so you're ready to go pitch VCs. Cool. Well, so thanks for sharing kind of a lot of details about what you guys have built. I just obviously find this endlessly fascinating. Let's kind of pop back up a layer or two, and you kind of previewed. Obviously we're recording this, less than 2 weeks after ChatGPT dropped their big news, and it was kind of funny. So the week before that, the AP2 came out with Google and PayPal and this whole army of people, and I read that one. And it was so complicated. It kind of like it felt like a committee had built it, and then the ACP seems more tight and people that kind of like understood the mission a little better, and it has a narrower mission. I'll just say that. So the AP2 is kind of like any kind of agentic use case. Very. If we were to kind of like take the union of all use cases and build an API for that, and then this one was just like we want to help sell stuff. Physical products in a kind of like where you and I are talking. What do you make of it, and what do you think about that? Is that going to become the default standard? What's going to?
It was huge. Everybody expected it. You were calling it for a long time, obviously, right? Like, hey, it's going to happen, and whatnot. So I think the good news is, hey, it's great for the industry. Number one, right? It gets people used to placing orders on off like merchant properties and stuff like that. So in general, it gets users comfortable, right, in transacting commerce that way, right? So it moves the needle for like all of us, right? Whoever's in the agentic sort of like commerce industry, right? Now, if you break it down on what ACP is and what they're doing, I think the discovery is agentic for sure, right? The way ChatGPT figures it out, and things like that. And I think that's huge there on the discovery level. The checkout is not really agentic, right? Like checkout, I mean, it's not agentic commerce in the sense that they've put out a spec. It's an API basically, right? So if you want to do the checkout, you as a merchant have to code to that API, and in the figure I showed earlier, it is that integrated checkout basically. It's via protocol.
Yeah, I've had this argument. So their argument, and I'm not defending it. I'm just, you probably know this, but I'm sharing it for listeners. Is the agentic part of ACP is the little orchestrator. They kind of view that as the agent that kind of like ties so you got a merchant, you've got the payment, and then you've got ChatGPT in the middle there. So you've got basically kind of like you know 3 to 4 modules talking to each other. It is a little complex until you kind of like get your head around it. That's what they would say. But I think a purist would say it's not agentic. I agree. I agree with the relatively pure version.
It's sort of like you need network externality. It's like a fax machine. You have to have the merchant also code to that protocol and things like that. But I think a lot of merchants and retailers want to get on ChatGPT. So that's a big draw, right? Like what was it, Scott? 800 million users, MAUs or whatever. So that's a big draw, and maybe that could force some mass adoption where Shopify coded into ACP, maybe Woo, Magento, everybody else follows suit, and all the retailers follow. It could be the de facto standard in the future. That's it's possible, right? But maybe there are 2 3 other competing protocols that may come up as well, right? That people may subscribe to. There could be individual retailers who say, we're not doing any of that, but we'll expose our stuff using our MCP servers. So there could be like a whole bunch of those that are out there. And then for everybody who's left, there's always browser agentic, right?
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
Amazon's going to be out there for a while. I don't know if you work with Amazon, but they seem like they're kind of saying, nope, we're going to be over here all on our own.
So it's going to be a process, and I want to give you an analogy from my food and food delivery days in my first startup. So and not only us, but even the biggest players were doing this, right? Uber, DoorDash. So you enter a new market, right? You want 1,000 restaurants on your app, right? It's impossible and super hard at the beginning to go talk to 1,000 restaurants and 1,000 locations and get their menus and have them to buy into your channel, right? Yeah, all of that stuff. So what do you do at the beginning? You use existing rails. That's what we all did, right? We scraped the menu, put it on the app, right? And the rails already existed for placing a to-go order, right? Anybody can call a restaurant player to. So when the order came into the app, we had our drivers call the restaurant, place the order as a to-go order, and they paid using these cards that we issued to them that were API programmatic and whatnot. So we control how much money was in there, and then they would walk into the restaurant and say, "Hey, where's my to-go order?" And they would pick that up and deliver that to the customer, right? That's kind of like how the food delivery industry sort of started at the beginning, right? And we all did that, and the whole point I bring that up is we were using the rails that existed back then to start, right? Which was which is basically the to go order rails. Same thing on agentic commerce, right? The rails exist today for humans to browse a website and place an order, right? That's where the browser and merchants and retailers don't have to do anything on their end, right? The agents will go and do it, and those rails exist, right? So that's where the browser agentic sort of has a place. And as the market evolves and protocols evolve and people start adopting protocols, and then you have like certain deals with like certain platforms and retailers, stuff will start shifting, into that world, right? But the whole thing is going to take some time, right? And I think that's what our mission is it doesn't matter what happens, right? Like we'll give a standardized layer to our customers so they don't have to sort of figure this world out, right? They have a hard enough job doing their vertical SaaS stuff, right? So
one other big picture question I think you have a unique view of is I spend a fair amount of time talking about the horizontal players, so ChatGPT, Perplexity, and so on, and they're horizontal in they're trying to be in all the categories or most of the categories, and then I imagine the customers you're talking to are very verticalized, and it's interesting. I've always had it on my list of things I want to write more about, and there's like new ones every day, and I try to keep track of them. So I'm going to do a little bit more on that, but what do you think about the horizontal versus vertical kind of argument?
Yeah, I think we are a lot of what I'm seeing, at least for our potential customers and stuff like that, are sort of vertical engines that that have an expertise in a certain area, right? Like I see a lot of these fashion apps out there, right? That I'm talking to, where they have their own unique taste on like giving like fashion advice and recommendation, and help me choose a dress, or help me do this, or I want to look like this designer, or hey, take my picture and tell me all of that stuff, right? So and then somebody like us could then like enable the purchase layer for folks like this, and but there could be there are other ones in other industries that are also like because look at recommendation right now, right? Chat GPT, LLM based, it's okay, a little bit generic, if you will, right? It's agentic and cool, but but they could be experts in a particular area, right? Hey, I'm B2B tools expert, right? Like and people will go there and listen to that, and and there would be like even discovery will get into some expert channels, right? Like and that'll probably happen, right? Chat GPT is not going to solve everything, right? There's going to be a rise of pods of like sort of expertise and things like that, and there's always going to be influencers who are experts in a particular area that are going to have a lot of eyeballs, right? And things like that. So this is all the vertical areas sort of we aspire to play in, right? But the thing that excites me the most, Scott, is if this technology became ubiquitous, imagine enabling new surfaces for commerce, right? So today, we can help, where you can see and can't buy, for example, right? The Pinterest, the Google Shopping. Well, now you can put buy now buttons with this technology, right? But can you imagine, like, hey, I work in this office, and I spend all day on Slack. Wouldn't it be cool if I can just like order my groceries off of Slack too, right? Well, now now you can make these apps that had nothing to do with commerce, but people spend a lot of time on these apps. You can make them more convenient and make them commerce enabled, right? Now the technology is coming up to do that, right? And that's exciting, right?
Yeah, you could have hey, at HEB, I need these kind of groceries. Boom, amazing, cool. If folks want to learn more, so y'all's website is cartai.ai, and then you're on LinkedIn. Is anywhere? Oh, tell us about your Substack. So where's the best place to find your Substack?
Yeah, it's at CartAI, is our Substack, and website is cartai.ai, because cart.ai was very expensive. So, so we went with cartai.ai. I thought, got a little.
Yeah, this is the benefit of not being a consumer customer. You can B2Bs will find you even if it's a little different.
Yep, and then we're available on LinkedIn as well, and to anybody who wants to chat, like Agentic Commerce, and check out, whether it's from the vertical app side or the merchant side, stuff like that. Always ready to geek out, on that topic.
Well, Manil, appreciate you taking time. We're recording this on a Friday, so I know it's always hard in front of a weekend to bang out, have the energy to do this, but you seem like you're not tired at all. So kudos for that, and good luck raising funding if you decide that path, and we'll be keeping a close eye and maybe have you back in 6 to 9 months to get a little update on what you're seeing.
With gratitude, Scott. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. And, I love what you do. And, as soon as you drop your stuff, I'm always watching. So, thank you for shining a light on this area, for all of us, right? You're a beacon in that. So
appreciate it. Tell all your friends, tell all your Agentic friends.
Follow, rate, and share to stay up to date with Retailgentic, your guide to the future of AI shopping agents.